Let's pray. Father God, I love you, Lord. I thank you for who you are. God, I pray this morning, Lord, as we begin to continue this journey through your word, may you continue to teach us. May we grow in you to be the men of God that you've called us to be. God, may we genuinely, just for these next few moments, just press in, Lord. Just a desire to earnestly know you deeper. God, to have the communication with you that some of the great men of old had. Just in the way that your glory is shown amongst them. God, may we be able to experience the same. And may we always be in pursuit of you. God, I love you, worship you, and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen. So, Exodus 32. Anybody remember where we're at? Where the children of Israel at? They're in the wilderness at Mount Sinai, right? So, to kind of give you, this is our class called The History of Redemption. So we're taking you from the fall of man in the garden, and we've worked our way up through Tower of Babel, the flood, walked through all that stuff, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Israel's sons, or Jacob's sons who became Israel. We walked through Joseph's story, which is how the Hebrews or the Israelites got into slavery in Exodus. Can we turn all those like way down? We got massive surround sound. But how they ended up getting into Exodus, and then there ended up being the plagues that the Lord sent on Egypt, and God ended up having his people being led out of Egypt. They're led out of Egypt. They're in the wilderness. It's a journey that to the promised land should have taken them a couple weeks max. And for those of you that know the story, how long they wandered in the wilderness? 40 years. You may hear John or I say something along the lines whenever we're talking about some of your stories, how you're walking around the same mountain again. You're doing the same thing again. It's like, here we are again. We're facing the same thing. I'm getting in the same trouble. I'm getting caught up in the same sin. Whatever it is, you're surrounding the mountain again. It's kind of a reference to this with the children of Israel. Because for 40 years, they wandered in the wilderness. Because of their unfaithfulness to the Lord. Because of their grumbling and complaining against Moses and Aaron and Miriam. And just continue to go on and on. But Moses here, so they're out at Sinai. Moses goes up the mountain and continues to have these conversations with the Lord. And the Lord continues to give him all these directions and specifications on what it is that he should do. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want the people to do this. This is what the tabernacle should look like. This is what this should look like. I mean, he's going into all these different specifications. The Lord's being super specific with Moses. And a couple of his trips, he's up there for a long time. And where we are today, chapter 32, Moses is still on the mountain. Verse 1 says, whenever the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him. I want to pause here for a moment. This is mankind in a nutshell anytime they don't have leadership. Anytime they don't have people leading them in what is true and what is not true. This is mankind in a nutshell. They end up getting to this point where all of a sudden the leadership is absent, and you leave the leadership absent for long enough, then mankind just goes to do whatever it is it's going to do. I mean, think about Chrome. Let's bring it a little bit more personal. I like bringing it back to us every so often. Let's bring it back to Chrome. If all of a sudden all the leadership was sucked out of Chrome, all the guys that are in masters were gone. All the guys that were in transition were gone. All of a sudden you got 120 guys that are in that first 9 months of the program, and we're all gone for a month, how long do you think it happens? How long do you think it takes for all of a sudden dope's on the campus? A day. You know, like, I'm not saying the leadership is what helps keep the guardrails up, but at times it's what, whenever all of a sudden you start getting those crazy thoughts, it's what at times may slow you down. Because you know they're going to hold you accountable. They're going to call you whenever you get caught up in your mess and stuff like that. And Moses is on the mountain with God for a period of time, and while he's there, he's up there for so long that they're like, hey, come make us something that we can worship. Because apparently that guy Moses, he ain't coming back. He's been up there for a long time. I don't know if God ate him or what, but he's gone. He's gone. And Aaron answered them, take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, your daughters are wearing, and bring them to me. Again, where did they get this gold earrings and stuff? Whenever they plundered Egypt. Which you can go back and you can read in Genesis 15, when God begins to talk to Abraham for like one of the first times. And he tells him about how his descendants will one day be slaves in Egypt. Well, he doesn't say Egypt, but he says how they will be slaves for 400 years. And at the end of that 400 years, it says whenever they go out, that as they leave, the people of the country that they are slaves in will all of a sudden give them all their precious stuff, gold, silver, whatever, right? Well, then you get to the story, you continue to follow the story a little bit further. Well, by the time they go to leave Egypt, Moses goes into Pharaoh, one of the last times they do the death of the firstborn, all that stuff. And right around that time, he tells the people, hey, go to the Egyptians around you and ask for their jewelry and stuff. Just ask. It wasn't an or else, it was just ask. And they asked and they gave him. They gave it to him. They said, please go, take all this stuff. They gave him all this jewelry. Well, then here we are. We wander in the wilderness for a couple weeks. And we get to this place, or a couple months rather. And we get to this place where our leader's now gone. And hey, all this stuff that God provided, let's go ahead and make us a golden calf. They didn't say that yet. As of now, they've just brought all the gold to them. But how many times do the things that God has provided us and meant for good ends up becoming this curse, if you will, because we end up misusing it or mishandling it? Maybe the Lord provided you with a really awesome job that you would have, in normal circumstances, you would have never gotten. And all of a sudden you got this really awesome job, really great benefits, everything's going great in your life, and you got all this money, and with all the money, it gives you all the more money to go out and buy dope. Or it gives you all the more money to go out and spend time at the strip clubs. Or get prostitutes, or whatever. And it's just like what it was that God had meant for good for us, to bless us, we ended up turning it into something that just, I don't know, sin, for lack of a better term. Right? And we ended up in bondage over it. We ended up in bondage over it. Verse 3, so all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then Then they said, these are your gods, Israel, who brought you out of Egypt. Hang tight real quick. Let me turn over a little bit because I want to make sure that I get the right thing here. 1 Kings chapter 12. Yeah, 1 Kings chapter 12. If you want to turn there, if not, we're going to be flipping right back. 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 26 through 29. Maybe you just want to write it down. So this is where first king of Israel, Saul, after him, he was a man after the people's own heart. Next king on the scene was David, who was a man after God's own heart. Then his son was Solomon. Solomon ended up having all these wives and concubines and all this stuff, and he ended up leading the people into worshiping other gods. And whenever that happened, God ended up doing what with the kingdom of Israel? Splitting it in two. Northern kingdom and southern kingdom. And right here in chapter 12 of 1 Kings, this is where all of a sudden that we begin to see it for one of the first times, the same verbiage, the same thing that was mentioned, what we just read. Because you get the king in the northern kingdom, Jeroboam, in verse 25 says, Then Jeroboam fortified Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and he lived there. From there he went out and built up Peniel. And Jeroboam thought to himself, the kingdom will likely revert to the house of David, meaning they'll leave the northern kingdom and go to the southern kingdom. If these people go up to offer sacrifice at the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem, they will again give their allegiance to their lord, Rehoboam, the king of Judah, which is the southern kingdom. They will kill me and return to King Rehoboam. So he's worried that if, hey, these people leave the north and head to the south and they're going to revolt against me, they're going to end up in insurrection, they're going to kill me, they're going to go down there, they're going to go follow him as king. So after seeking advice, verse 28, the king made 2 golden calves, and he said to the people, It is too much for you to go to Jerusalem. Here are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. And he set one at Bethel and the other in Dan. The exact same verbiage that we just read in Exodus 32, and we all know how this ends up starting to play out. Here they are a couple generations later doing the same thing all over again. I don't know how many of you have ever heard that statement that something along the lines, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. We're doomed to repeat it. So many people want to tear down statues or erase certain things from history books. And if you erase, I get many of these things are super egregious. I'm not advocating for them. But I'm saying if you remove these things from the history books, then you tend to forget. Generations go by. All of us know a lot of things that are currently in our history books. But imagine if all of a sudden all the history books on the planet were completely disposed of. Within 3 to 4 generations, all of a sudden our great-great-grandchildren will have no idea that Nazi Germany even existed, all the atrocities that even happened there, and then all of a sudden you'll get somebody else that'll rise to power, try to do the same thing all over again. It's kind of a thing that goes back to, I look at kings a lot. The kings, it's always as sins of the fathers. If the men of the household were teaching their children the ways of the Lord and what it was that God wanted them to do, then their children wouldn't be getting caught up in the same type of sin. Because their fathers would have raised them up how they should have grown up. But they weren't. As you see, we get generations later and they're doing the exact same thing. It don't say like a golden porcupine or a silver porcupine. Like it's another golden calf. It's another golden calf. And it's 2 of them. He upped the ante. It ain't just 1, it's 2 now. Back in Exodus 32. So he said, These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. Verse 5. When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord. So the next day the people rose early, sacrificed burnt offerings, and presented fellowship offerings. Afterwards they sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. Then the Lord said to Moses, Go down, because your people whom you brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt. They've been quick to turn away from what I commanded them and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a gold calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it and have said, These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. I've seen these people, said the Lord said to Moses, and they are stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone so that my anger may burn against them and that I may destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation. Did you catch that? So what is God saying that he wants to do right now? Take them out. Kill them all. And essentially, start over with Moses. I'm going to start over with you, Moses. Because these people are not obeying me. They're not doing what it is that I've asked them to do. They're going the opposite direction. The one thing that I've asked them not to do, they're doing already.
It kind of sounds like you disowned them. He said, your people.
Yeah. Verse 11, but Moses sought the favor of the Lord his God. Lord, he said, why should your anger burn against your people, whom you brought out of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say it was with evil intent that he brought them out, to kill them in the mountains and to wipe them off the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce anger, relent, do not bring disaster on your people. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, or Jacob, to whom you swore by your own self, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and I will give your descendants all this land. I promised them, and it will be their inheritance forever. Then the Lord relented and did not bring on his people the disaster that he had threatened. Now, one of the things that I want to point out here, Moses was doing something that you may have heard of before called standing in the gap. Standing in the gap. And as many of you have echoed through here, intercession. He's interceding on behalf of the people. He's the one standing in the gap and saying, please remember what you've promised. Please remember all this stuff. Please don't, please, Lord. He's begging the Lord on behalf of the people. And they don't even know. They're down there having a great heyday. I'm sure it says there's a bunch of revelry. I'm sure they're partying and running amok and just having a great time. They don't even know that Moses is up there pleading on their behalf for the Lord. How close they are to getting completely wiped out. But there was somebody interceding. Now, bring this to your own life. How many times have you been out there in revelry, living your life, running it amok, doing whatever the heck you want to do, drinking and driving, doing whatever, and next thing you know, your vehicle rolls over, and somehow you make it through alive? We had a guy in our program a year and a half ago that he told me the story whenever he first got here about how there was one night he woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and he didn't know why, but one of his sons was on his heart so strong that he just couldn't get it off his mind. And so he just got down on his hands and knees and just started praying for the Lord. Like he didn't know what it was, but it was such this overwhelming feeling that his son's life was in danger. Well, whenever all of a sudden the phones got turned on that morning, he was able to make a phone call. He got a phone call from his family that said, hey, at 3 o'clock this morning, your son was in an accident. And it was a horrible accident. Had you seen the vehicle, he shouldn't have lived. But somehow he was able to walk away. That's an example of interceding. How many times has your mom or your dad or your grandma or your grandfather been interceding for you and for your life? Begging the Lord, please be patient. Please be patient. I know that they do not deserve it. I know that they do not deserve your grace. I know that they've gone too far. Lord, they've tested my patience too. Lord, if they do it one more time, I'll put them in the hole. Don't worry about it. You ain't got to do it, I'll do it. But Lord, please, today, Lord, please, be gracious. And the people in our lives that stand in the gap. I say this to you because prayerfully, the more that you walk with the Lord, the closer that you get to the Lord, that you'll get to this place where you'll begin to have people within your life that the Lord's going to wake you up at 1:30, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody that you ain't thought about in 15 years. That all of a sudden you just start going to the throne room and just praying on their behalf. I had this time probably 4 or 5 months ago. I still don't even know the other side of it. This girl I went to high school with. Man, there was nothing romantic or nothing with me. It was just a girl I went to high school with. I ain't thought of her since high school. It's been 20 plus years since I had last had any communication with her. And then all of a sudden, 4, 5, 6 months ago, 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning, all of a sudden I wake up in the middle of the night and she is just like on my mind. And it wasn't nothing sexual. It was just like I needed to like immediately start interceding on her behalf. I didn't know anything going on in her life. The only thing I've heard about her since high school was that she got diagnosed with lupus at the age of like 20. And so like that's the only thing I know about her. And so I just started praying. I was like, Lord, I don't know if she's in pain right now. Lord, if she's in pain right now in this moment, she's having trouble sleeping. Maybe she's at the end of her rope. Lord, I pray that you just have her hold on a little bit longer. Lord, I pray that you heal her body. God, that you heal her mind. God, if this is causing her trouble with having relationships, God, I pray that you begin to just heal her. And for like 30, 45 minutes, the Lord won't let me fall back asleep. So I just sat there and I just kept praying for her. Any and everything that I could think of, I was throwing it on the table before the Lord. I was standing in the gap for somebody that I ain't talked to in 20 years and I may never talk to again. And there may be this day where I stand in heaven, where the Lord sits there and he brings me back and he goes, Chris, you remember that night where you began to pray and I woke you up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning and you began to pray for her? Let me show you what she was going through at that moment. You know, let me show you how she was this close to death and how you stood in the gap.
You could have just blown it off and said it ain't important.
I mean, because there's so many times where it's not even the Lord that's moving it, but there's maybe the enemy's moving on somebody's life. And it's just like, I think about back to our whole rollover, whenever our vehicle rolled over. Like, I don't know how many times we flipped. All I know is we flipped and we ended up like 100 yards down the road, but in the median facing the other way by the time we were done flipping. I can tell you one of the times we hit the roof really hard. Really hard. Busted out the windows and like, I mean, it was hard. It sounded like a bomb went off. But the vehicle, I mean, the roof dented in like that much. And it hit hard. We had so many people coming up like immediately right afterwards and they see us moving around inside and they're like, how in the world are y'all alive? So many people saying there must be a God looking over you. Amen. The police officers, FHP that showed up on the scene that said, I've never seen a vehicle like this hit on its roof and not be completely flattened. I'm reminded of the story of Job for a few moments, where Satan's wandering all over the earth, seeking for somebody to devour. He goes into the presence of the Lord, and God says, hey, where have you come from? And he says, seeking the earth for who I can devour. And God says, have you considered my servant Job?
Offers him up.
And he said, well, I would, but you got this hedge of protection around him. If you remove that hedge, he'll curse you. God said, do whatever you want. Just don't take his life. Don't touch him. Chapter 2, because all of a sudden, chapter 1, Job loses everything. Chapter 2, all of a sudden, there's this next conversation that begins to happen in heaven. And Satan comes back again. Well, the only reason why he's still faithful to you is because you didn't let me touch him. We can do whatever you want to him, just don't kill him. He got boils all over his body. His friends start coming against him. His wife tells him you just need to curse God and die. Like all this stuff where normal people would throw in the towel. Again, he had this hedge of protection. There was nothing that he could do unless God gave him permission to do it. And I think about even in our accident. I mean, all the factors that could have played differently that day, I've thought them over. I mean, that stoplight that, I mean, it was a yellow light, and you could have slowed down, but it was like one of those questionable ones, so you kind of sped up and you made it through it. I mean, that would have put us a couple seconds behind. To being hundreds of miles down the road, and all of a sudden I just looked at my wife. I was like, "You want to get some Dairy Queen today?" We don't ever stop for Dairy Queen, but for whatever reason, I wanted Dairy Queen that day. We wouldn't have been next to that vehicle had we not stopped and got Dairy Queen. You know, like all these different things that I began to think about. But it was like God wanted us there at that exact moment. And he allowed, it was essentially the hedge of protection was like, all right, go ahead. You can hit them. But as they begin to roll, I'm going to protect them. And it was like we were in this box. Even though we were rolling, it was like we were in this box that was not being collapsed in on. And I wonder, and one day I may find out, that there was probably, and there could have been, somebody interceding for me. Maybe somebody woke up that morning and began to pray for my family and didn't even know why they were praying for them. Standing in the gap. That's what Moses is doing. He's standing in the gap, and the people don't even know that he's standing in the gap. They're this close to death, and they don't even know it. Verse 15, Moses turned and went down the mountain with the 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hand. They were inscribed on both sides, front and back. The tablets were the work of God. The writing was the writing of God engraved on the tablets. Whenever Joshua heard the noise of the people shouting, he said to Moses, "There's a sound of war in the camp." And Moses replied, "It's not the sound of victory, it's the sound of defeat. It is the sound of singing that I hear." When Moses approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, his anger burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hand, breaking them into pieces at the foot of the mountain. You know what's kind of funny? Moses interceding on behalf of the people is not saying Moses is in agreement with what the people are doing. I mean, God saw what the people are doing. That's why his anger burned against the people. Moses ended up interceding, and then all of a sudden, whenever he went down there and he saw it for himself, he got angry. He's like, "You gotta be kidding me." I wonder if the Lord's like, "You see now why I said I wanted to kill him? I told you." And in the same way, I mean, how many of your family members or friends that within your own life have been interceding on your behalf? And then they see you in your mess. In that moment that they see you, all of a sudden that grieving that they have within them. Almost like that righteous anger. Not an anger like I'm mad, like because I'm, but it's just like a righteous anger of just like, yeah, it's that hurt. I mean, it's a good way to put it. It grieves you inside that they're still doing it, and it's like, man, I knew it was bad, I didn't know it was this bad. You know? So, fast forward to chapter 34. Moses ends up making, I had told you guys he had 6 ascents all the way up to Mount Sinai already. Makes his 7th ascent up to Mount Sinai. And during this time, the Lord tells him that his glory is going to pass by. He tells Moses, "My glory is going to pass by." And what I want to read with you guys is in chapter 34, starting in verse 29. This time, whenever Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hands, he was not aware that his face was radiant, because he had spoken with the Lord. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, they were afraid to come near them. Now, I'm going to throw this one out to you. Has your face, can people tell just by looking at your face that you've been in the presence of the Lord?
A lot of times, something about the way you
This is something for you to chew on individually. It's something for years I've been praying to the Lord about. I mean, because 13 years in the Army gave me this face. Well, I mean, I was born with this face, but I'm just talking about like the hard, cold, callous, like unapproachable face. Like I just needed people to do what I told them to do. Like 13 years in the Army gave me this face. And one of the things that I've been praying to the Lord for is like, Lord, you got to help me. Like I don't want to be unapproachable. I want people that whenever they see me to see you. And it's one of the things that I constantly have to go back and forth with the Lord about is because it's like, God, I want people to be able to see you. I want them to be able to see your Son through me. Genuinely. I mean, I don't need an answer, but do people see Christ in you whenever they look at you? Or do they look at you and they know that you tell everybody you're a Christian, but whenever they look at you, they're like, if that's what a Christian is, I want nothing to do with it. You know? Moses spent time with the Lord, and whenever he came down, because the Lord's glory was there in that moment with Moses, he came down and his face was radiant. And everybody was fearful because they're like, he's been in the presence of the Lord. What are some things that keep us from getting to that place where we experience God's glory?
First, the one that would be our pride.
So pride, you said hardships, sin, anxiety, self, disobedience, not surrendering.
When things are good, real good.
You know, when things are real good, I don't need God.
Unforgiveness.
Ego, unforgiveness, unbelief, lack of faith, wrong attitude, doubt. We could be here all day. Complacency. I don't know how many of you have maybe sat down in the morning with your Bible and you had all great intentions to spend time with the Lord, and you sit down and you start reading and you get about 3 verses in, maybe 3.5 verses in, and you start thinking about your day. And next thing you know, you're on verse 27 of 3 chapters later, and you have no idea what you read because you've been daydreaming about what you were going to do throughout the day. Or some people will instead, and I know you guys don't do this right now, but you'll have the opportunity later in the program or your life to do your devotions here. Well, all of a sudden, whenever you start doing them here, next thing you know is you get a text. Hey, I need you to call me. Hey, I got a question. Hey, this just happened at the job. Hey, this just happened at the house. And next thing you know, you're checked out and you're only 2.5 verses in. This is why whenever people end up showing up to church, I encourage them to have this in their hands. If I'm in church, this is on silent. I've gotten to this place now where it's like my body or my mind is programmed. Whenever I'm at church, whether it's Celebrate Recovery or church on Wednesday night or Sunday night, like no sooner I walk through the door, I stick my hand in my pocket, I flip the little switch on the side and put it on silent. Because it's like, and I even have it, my phone set up on sleep during those hours that church is, because it's like, I want nothing coming through. If it's an emergency, it can wait 1.5 hours. Like, it can wait. Like, I'm not worried about it. I don't need a distraction. The Lord knew I was going to be here in this place at this time. He knew my phone was going to be on silent. Like if he wanted me to know about it, it would wait. But so many people, they'll sit in church and they'll have this out to use as their Bible. And then all of a sudden they start getting game scores. They get updates from ESPN or whatever, Fox News or CNN or whatever. It comes through on their phone. And all this, I mean, it's all this stuff just popping up. I mean, some of y'all, I don't know how y'all live life. I've looked through some of your phones, and no sooner you hand it to me and you unlock it, it's like ding, 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 ding. I'm like, bro, like, do they stop? No, it's like that all day long. I turn off all the noise on mine. I don't need none of that. But whenever you're here and you're sitting in church or you're in class, and all of a sudden you're digging in a little bit deeper, and maybe you read a little bit further ahead, or maybe as you're reading, you're like, hold on, I read something the other day, and you go to, there's so many different things within my Bible that are underlined or highlighted or whatever that I could tell you where exactly it is on the page. I can't tell you the exact reference. Like I could tell you I can go to 1 Kings or 2 Kings, up in the top left corner, it's a section about like that big. It's underlined and it's highlighted, and it's the story of whenever Elisha burned the plow. I don't have my whole Bible highlighted, but I know if I go to 2 Kings, I'll look up there in that top left corner. I'm like, I don't know exactly where it's at, but if I go to 2 Kings and I start flipping through, I'm going to find, eventually, I'm going to get to the place where he burns the plow. And I'll just be able to reference it right there and be able to start pointing it to people. But it's here in my hands. In the same way, there's so many times whenever I'm sitting in church and the pastor may say something and it jogs something else in my brain, and all of a sudden I'll turn there. He'll be talking about something. I'll be like, man, that reminds me of James chapter 3. And I'll go to James chapter 3. I'll read it. I'll read everything around it, like while the pastor's still talking. And I'll point it out to my wife, and I'll be like, look at that. That's pretty cool. Like, that's right on target with what it is that he's talking about. And then I kid you not, within like 5-10 seconds, all of a sudden he's like, and if you'll turn to James chapter 3, verse 17, and I'm like, got him, you know? But the more that you have this in your hands, the more that this becomes a part of you. I mean, it's like, I don't know how many of you have ever loved someone once before. Probably all of you at least some point in your life, even if it was puppy love at the age of 12. But that person that you love probably wrote you letters. And how much you looked forward to receiving those letters and to reading it. And some of you, even being here, may have letters from your wife or somebody that you love, and you just hold on to it. And how many days you pull it out and you read it, just to remind yourself of what it is, of how much they love you, of how much they want to pursue this relationship with you. And here is the greatest love story that's ever been written, where he tells you all the time about how much he loves you, about what he thinks about you, about the plans that he has for you. And how many people just can't be bothered to even open up and read it? I mean, he desires to know you. Do you desire to know him? Do you desire to lay everything down for him and just pursue him? Or do you desire to just kind of just go through the motions? Because relationships are not built with no communication. There has to be communication. Those of you that have ever been married can attest to that. Because whenever there's no communication or you're not being heard, then there's a disconnect that begins to happen. And I'm talking about good communication. I'm not talking about just communication. Because you communicate and say a bunch of foul stuff that does nothing but send people into dark places. I'm talking about pointing people towards the Lord. Good, healthy communication, right? So the questions before you today. The true test of your heart happens whenever you begin to step out from underneath the leadership. There will come a day for all of you where you will have the opportunity to step out up underneath of one type of leadership, whether it's here at Chrome or from your church or whatever. You may move. I mean, you may step out of Chrome and do everything great. You may eventually go to a church, get super involved in that church, and then you get a new job in Connecticut. I don't know, it's the first place that came up. I don't know that there's any jobs in Connecticut. There's like 5 people. But maybe you get a job in Connecticut. And you're living in Connecticut, and now it's, well, I got to go find a church. And the true test of how you're going to walk this out is there ain't no accountability right now. What am I going to do? What's my true heart's desire going to do? Am I going to be diligent in finding leadership, somebody that's godly to place over me? I wrote my son, who's at the program in New Orleans, a letter today. And in that letter, I talked to him about leadership. And I talked to him about healthy people surrounding himself with. Because we all need healthy people. The same way as it is here, there's people that don't want to be here. I mean, it's evident by how you live. It's evident by how you hang out in class. It's evident by all of it. Those of you that just go through the motions, I mean, your heart will be revealed. It'll eventually come out. But those of you that are genuinely pursuing the Lord, I challenge you to start clumping up together. Challenge each other. Do Bible studies together. Pray together. Get to know each other's stories. Pray about each other's families. Intercede for each other. Intercede for each other's families. You hear about how one's having trouble with their marriage. Intercede on behalf of their marriage. You hear about one of their spouses or friends or loved ones in the hospital. Intercede on their behalf. Stand in the gap. Standing in the gap's not about so that way one day you can beat on your chest and say, look what I did. It's just being a part of what it is that the Lord's doing. Because there's been times in my life where I felt like the Lord wanted me to pray for somebody and I didn't. And there was times when in doing that, not doing that rather, that the Lord still did move. I just wasn't a part of it. I shared with you guys a couple months ago. I heard this story about this. I heard this story about this guy that was a healing evangelist. And how he felt so overwhelmed that the Lord was telling him, you need to go into the hospital. You need to pray for the people and discharge them all because I'm going to heal them. He went to one of his friends, this is on a Saturday, went to one of his friends and said, hey, I need you to start praying and fasting. The Lord wants me to go into the hospital and he wants to heal everybody. He says, as the hours went by, he just got more and more scared and decided to not go. The next morning, Sunday morning, he goes to church and he got amped up. You know, you walk through the doors of church, you ready to go fight hell with the water pistol. He was ready to go. He was ready to go. He went to the hospital. He showed up at the nurses' stations and he saw the nurse and she said, sir, how can I help you? He said, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm a healing evangelist and I'm here to discharge all the people and to heal them. And she looked at him confused and said, are you coming for those that are healed or the sick? And he said, the sick. And she said, we don't have any. She said, yesterday the Spirit of God moved through here and every person in here got healed and left. And that guy said immediately in that moment, he felt so overwhelmed and he felt like the Spirit of the Lord told him, I was going to heal those people with or without you. What I wanted you there for was to tell them about me, so that way whenever they were healed, they knew that I was the one that healed them. Now they got healed, they walked out, and they didn't know that I was the one that healed them. How many things within our lives do we just, we're scared?
Yeah, somebody told me sinful behavior is not always what you do, it's oftentimes what you don't do.
Yeah, that'll preach. The Lord says, hey, that man right there, give him $5. Lord, I just took this out to get my kids this. Do you trust me? Do you trust me? Because that $5 is going to get to those people that he wants it to get to. Or are you going to be a part of it, or is he going to need to use somebody else? What do you do whenever there's no leadership in your life? Are you going to be one of those people that intercedes for others? And then the last thought to mull on is, can people tell that you've been in the presence of the Lord? That's something that I've told you guys before. For the first several years that I followed the Lord, I spent a lot of time in the mirror. And I genuinely would stand there and I would look at myself and I would say, God, what within me does not look like you? Because before I came to know the Lord, whenever I looked in the mirror, I hated the person I saw in the mirror. Hated him. Despised him. But whenever I began to follow the Lord, it was like, God, what within me doesn't look like you? I want it out. And he would begin to reveal different things to me. The sexual addiction, the pride, the alcoholism, the anger, my cursing, every bit of it. He wanted it all gone. Why? Because he wants us to look like him. He wants the world to look at us and see his son. By how we live, by how we treat people, by how we talk to people, by how we take care of those that nobody else wants to deal with. It's really easy to love and to like the likable people and the lovable people. It's really hard to like and love the unlovable people. The people that'll curse you out, the people that'll take the last brownie in front of you and then say something smart underneath of their breath as they turn around and, man, y'all are all pointing at each other, man. Right? It's real hard to love that person. But I'm reminded of that old song that says that they will know we are Christians by our love. Love for one another and love for others. Can people tell you've been in the presence of the Lord? Love you guys. Have a good day.